I don't have time to make a guest name for you, but this is a surprise. This is John Keating, everybody. Vegan Health Fitness.
How's it going, Drew?
It's going good. Dude, where'd your channel leave off, man? You were like over 15,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I had 31,000.
31K.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just got bored of making videos. Partly for other reasons as well.
For other reasons as well.
I might get into.
Interesting. We may get into that. Well, guys, for those of you who don't know, this is John Keating of Vegan Health Fitness YouTube channel. He talks about making gains, track stuff, lifting weights. John and I have spoken one time before on Skype, I believe, back in the day, like 4 years ago.
Yeah, ages ago.
And I think, what did we talk about back then? Like, I was probably struggling to make gains, and we were both kind of talking about that. Protein. We
were talking about needing extra protein to build muscle on a vegan diet.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago. Like, year one. I was like year one vegan. That was a long time ago. So what ended up happening with all that? So we probably decided that we need more protein.
Yep. And I think you were just trying to build muscle, and that's about it. But I can't really remember the conversation. Like you said, it was like 4 years ago. But you didn't make many videos in between then, did you?
Nope. I was pretty much like, I made like 2 videos while I was in Hawaii when I was there for 2 years. Like, I kind of went to Hawaii with the idea that I would sort of expand upon my YouTube career. Like, I just bought a new camera.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be going big time with this thing. And then I just wasn't very motivated when I was there, shockingly.
Yep.
And, there's many reasons for that as well.
Yeah. So I was just going to come on here and tell you guys that I'm no longer vegan.
What? What?
Yeah. You already know. I already sent you a message.
Okay, I already knew.
I look so surprised.
Guys.
Yeah.
Vegan Health Fitness is not fucking vegan anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So fill us in.
So I'll give you a brief rundown. So I actually don't. Funnily enough, I've only been eating meat for a couple of months now, but I still can't remember why I actually made the decision in the end. But basically, it was a combination of, I saw some videos, some ex-vegan videos just hang around on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. And I think I saw some Bobby videos, maybe, Bobby's perspective. Obviously, you know who he is, and probably everyone here probably knows who he is as well.
Bobby will get you.
Huh?
Bobby will get you.
Yeah. And he just had a few videos. I was actually afraid to click on them because I was like, well, why is this coming up in my feed? And why am I getting so many like ex-vegan, things, YouTube must know. And so anyway, I just 30 days previous to eating meat, I realized that, I started taking some supplements. So ones that I thought were missing in a vegan diet, like your carnosine, your taurine, creatine, just various things you can find in meat that, you wouldn't necessarily get, or make enough of in your body. So I thought, look, I'll give it a try and see see if it makes a difference. Funnily enough, that none of that made a difference. So I don't know if it's the fact it's in a supplement form. Supplements are not well absorbed most of the time. Like, for instance, creatine is not well absorbed compared to meat, eating meat.
By the way, you had a formal health background, right? Like some education in this, didn't you?
Yeah. I did a bit of nutrition at university as well. Not too much. Like when I went there, most people weren't. They weren't that interested in nutrition, and they weren't that great at it. Maybe I just didn't stick at it long enough. But yeah, it just didn't seem like the right thing to do at the time. And it was also racking up debt. And as you know, it's very expensive to go to university and not really get much out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, where was I? So I did the 30-day of supplements, didn't work. I saw some videos on YouTube, and the ex-vegan ones, and I was like, a few things I was just looking back at how the 6 years I'd been vegan had gone, and I realized I hadn't gained much muscle despite going to the gym quite consistently. And I noticed, but like you've probably said in your videos, I expected to make a little bit of a loss going vegan. Like, it wasn't as good gains, but I was okay with that. But when I look over those 6 years, I didn't really gain too much despite being consistent. And if that was the only thing, I probably wouldn't care. But what I also noticed is like fungal infections. I was getting fungal infections, and my skin it didn't feel right. It felt kind of tough, and it wasn't smooth. And I've always had kind of issues with my skin, but I just noticed it getting drier, and I've never had dry skin. Like, I always had oily skin. And yeah, it's getting drier. Like I said, the fungal infections were constant now, and my skin was also very sensitive as well. Like, I'd get on the edge of my arm here, it'd be all sensitive, and I couldn't even do deadlifts towards the end because my shins were too sensitive to actually do deadlifts, to pull the bar close to my shins. And yeah, just various things that I just noticed. They were small, like I didn't have any large serious issues, but I just noticed all these similarities with the kind of deterioration that I saw in other vegans. And also the digestion. It wasn't like I didn't have particularly bad digestion, but I noticed that I was becoming intolerant to like almost every single food. It got to the point where I was eating like very specific foods.
Like your box was getting smaller.
Yeah.
What you could eat.
The number of foods I was eating was getting, the variety was much less. Yeah. So yeah, just lots of different things I noticed, and I was like, all right, we'll give this a go. We'll see what it's like. And I went to the supermarket up the road, and I got some, I think it was tuna. It was a 400-gram can of tuna, and I think I got 2 of those. And I had one of those just before I went to bed. This is like late at night, like one of those late at night decisions you make.
Like, this was your first time ever consuming any animal foods? You're just like, fuck it, I'm getting tuna from the can.
Yeah, I'm just getting canned tuna. I'm just gonna see.
That's like desperation. That's like a desperation move right there. That's crazy. Right?
I wouldn't call it desperation, but
no, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, like, for you to make that decision, for that to be your first meal, like, you must have been in a desperate mindset.
Yeah,
like
sorry, I wouldn't use the word desperate, but it was I did it in the moment. Yeah, I was like, I have to try this right now, and I just went straight to the supermarket. I'm like, if there's something to this, I'm going to be real pissed. And of course I was in the end, but so yeah, I brought it back home, and I was sitting right here, and I finished about, it looked a bit disgusting, to be honest. Like, first, when you're looking at it, you're like, it's like fish, and I don't really want to eat it. And then anyway, I had it, and yeah, just probably 10 minutes after, I felt like a kind of warm sensation and a bit of euphoria as well. And I was like, this, like, there has to be something to this. As soon as I knew, I think my body knew, and I'm not a very, like, hippy whippy kind of person, but I think my body knew that this is what I wanted, this is what I needed, and it just, yeah, it gave me all the signals that yes, you should eat more of this food. And yeah, like the next day I went to gym. I was a lot stronger, like a lot stronger. I'm not even sure what it was because, like I said, I'd been taking creatine. I never stopped taking creatine. So it wasn't the creatine. I don't know if it was like electrolytes or something, but it just, next day was like 5-10 kilos. Maybe it's a bit of placebo, but it seemed a bit more than placebo, even a day in.
So
yeah.
a lot of us who've transitioned over from veganism back to just eating a big portion of animal foods like tuna or steak or whatever, we all have this first experience that you're describing, whether it's directly after the meal or in the middle of the night or whatever. But do you think that vegans who have an issue with us saying this, like, they could easily prove this to themselves by trying one meal or like a couple, like, we're not saying it was going to happen every single one of you your first time you try animal foods, but like, you will know within a few days if this is doing anything for you. It's not like veganism where it's like you have like a fruit smoothie and you're, you know what I mean? Like, there's a very distinct, obvious feeling. And I think the big issue with veganism is that because it's based on like that ethical foundation where it's like, can't try even a bite of meat, that you're boxing yourself in without even really knowing it. And you guys claim to be scientific, but really, like, John ate a can of tuna, which in terms of like the hierarchy of quality of food is way down the chain, and he still got positive reinforcement from his body. That's how powerful this stuff is. So go on.
And I mean, tuna's not even high in fat either. It's like a really, really low fat. So it, you couldn't even really say it was the fat content of the food. It was something in it. And the funny thing is, like, I've had a whole paradigm shift with eating meat again. It's meat is a whole food. Dr. Greger always goes on about plants being whole foods, that they have very complex interactions with your body, but so does meat. Meat is a very complex whole food that we don't know much about. Like, he talks about all these different, various phytochemicals in plants that all have these little actions in the body where, whether it lowers cholesterol or lowers blood pressure or whatever, interferes with whatever. Meat has similar effects. It has effects in the body that are numerous and that we don't even know about yet. And one of the reasons I really ended up doing it in the end is because I just think veganism is an experiment, and we actually don't know what the consequences are yet and in the long term. And obviously you guys have said that plenty of times, but I firmly believe that it's an experiment and that we don't know enough about nutrition to categorically say that a vegan diet is sufficient at any stage of life. And I think, any kind of body, institution that has it in writing that it's, being able to be done for every human is just, I think, a bit negligent, definitely.
I agree.
Because, there's some obvious ones you look at, like, they only made choline a reference, a dietary intake in 2016. It's like, we know
we're still
nothing.
Adding stuff.
If you're gonna put something on the reference list in 2016, I mean, that's only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
How do we not know about this? Why do we not know that we needed this? Yeah.
Sanka, this is a vegan troll, and I'm going to actually ban her right now. You're done. So she says another one, unfortunately, who didn't make the connection in regards to you. So what do you say? Like, what did you ever make a ethical connection whilst vegan, or do you think that, right? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, check my channel. I'm I did activism down at Collins Street here in Melbourne, in the city, and I did it pretty much every week for a few months on Saturdays. So I'd go out to talk to people about veganism and all kinds of stuff. So definitely an ethical vegan as well. I will say, like, I went into veganism for health initially, but like everyone says, you stay vegan because they're ethical arguments. So, but it's the thing is, now that I think about it, it's more like if your health is suffering, then I think self-preservation is more important than the animals. And you can say, that animals are equal and that, everyone's equal, but, it's a very political argument, but it's also, as it relates to veganism, it's just not true. It's like we would never treat an animal or even someone else as kind of, even vegans wouldn't treat other people or animals above themselves. They wouldn't put their animals before themselves, because they would say, if they were on an island, the island example, where they say, the joke is that the media asks, what would you do on an island, deserted island? Well, you would eat the animal. So therefore, you do believe in some way that self-preservation is important.
And I want to point out too, by the way, in terms of that island example, here's the other funny thing about it. Vegans can say, well, I try and eat, I try and forage food first, or I try and plant food first. But here's the catch, dumbass vegans, because these people have no idea about actually living in nature or growing their own food. If they did manage to plant their own food forest, guess what? The animals are coming for your damn food. What are you going to do? You're going to have to make a choice
for it to grow. So
you're going to have to make, well, yes, even let's say they even stumble across a field of crops already there that they just had to harvest when the time came. Magically. Which wouldn't happen in the first place.
But of course, it's a stupid example anyway.
The point is that they're going to have to decide sooner or later that it's either them or the animals. Because at some point, you will have to defend yourself against those pigs that will come eat all of your crops overnight. So what are you going to do then? You're going to say, I'll let the pigs eat my crops because I'm a defenseless vegan.
It's a bit of a trend
shoot
these
that
days,
pig.
With not defending things, not defending things you believe in, and not defending your own preservation. Like, it's all about caring for other people or other things, or it's like, maybe you should focus on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your health, because you're going to be crazy. You're going to be not mentally stable or anything like that. You're not going to hold down the job. But that's getting a bit off topic, I guess.
How long were you vegan, by the way?
How long?
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years. Did you ever meet any of these high up vegans? Any, like, you're in Australia, so did you ever meet Freely or Duran Rider or anybody like this?
Yeah, I met Duran Rider. I didn't meet Freely, unfortunately. I wanted to meet her, but I met Harley in 2014 at the Thai Fruit Fest. So I was there, and I don't know. I didn't have many interactions with him. He's all right. He's not too bad. He's just a bit like, I don't know. He just seemed like any other person. He's pretty quiet in person, to be honest. He's not very.
That's how he is on live streams.
Pardon?
He's pretty chill. That's how he is on live streams. He's pretty chill. He's not like, you would think.
I saw him in the live stream the other day, with was it? Was it Primal Edge or something? Yeah.
Yeah, we did one recently, and then we also did one with Primal Edge.
Yeah. Primal Edge is a bit fucking crazy. Holy shit.
He can get wild for sure.
He was digging into Dune Rider like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. That was on our stream together. Yeah, he said he waited 10 years to have that opportunity to say these things to Dune Rider. So he took over that stream, and he came to me afterwards. He's like, dude, I'm sorry about that. And I was like, don't worry about it. It was fine, because basically I made a video talking hella shit on Dune Rider. He saw it. He called me out in the comments. He said, let's do a stream or whatever, pussy. And I said, okay, let's go. I'm fucking scared of you.
Yeah.
I did want to mention, so I caught a live stream last night on Instagram. This guy, Ryuji something, his name is like Gentle Vegan or something like that. He's on Instagram. He has a podcast with this chick down in Southern California. He's an activist dude. He looks like a goddamn vegan. He's all sucked out. Looks like a vegan. Spot the vegan, this guy. Anyway, so he's doing a debate with this guy who clearly is trolling him on his Instagram. There's like 50 something people watching, and I just happened to be in this chat at this moment. And I was like, I heard them. I just was overhearing them talk, and Ryuji was telling this guy as if the argument is over for health. Like he's like, if you want to be not vegan, or if you want to argue vegans on the terms of ethics, or if you want to argue vegans on the terms of environmentalism, that's one thing. But in terms of health, it's a case closed. You are not eating you cannot say that eating animals for health reasons is even valid at all anymore today. And I feel like he's in the 2 to 3 year old mindset where he's like, sorry, the 2 or 3 years ago mindset where veganism was sort of this like open and shut case, like this is the healthiest way. And then all of a sudden we saw this experiment unfold online with thousands and thousands of people who have fallen off the vegan bandwagon around year 4, 5, 6, around that time frame, because this is about the time frame where reality sets in, the deficiencies start to set in, whatever happens starts to set in. And basically he's trying to say that health is not a valid reason because we've got that figured out. And meanwhile, you look at this guy and you're like, you look like the deteriorated vegans that we're talking about, that we're trying to avoid looking like, Well, and I bet this guy hasn't been vegan for that long.
Well, it's funny, like, the stereotype is that, the vegans are pale, skinny, and whatnot. And it's kind of true. Like, like with every stereotype,
it's fucking true.
There's an essence of truth to it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely. I saw. What's this? Oh, right. This is the guy.
Spot the vegan, guys. Yeah. Spot the vegan. Does that look like a vegan face to you? Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And the reason I say shit like this, and I don't mind being like basically offensive, is A, it's true.
Happy Mother's Day video right here. I'm walking out of the bathroom.
Just so arrogant, so pompous.
It reminds me of Mike Chang.
Of who? Mike Chang?
Yeah.
Yeah, his voice and everything.
Like kind of just talking like that.
Vegan activists, it's like not one vegan activist, not one looks good. There's not one like John Venus is not a vegan activist. Derek Simnet isn't a vegan activist. These guys are full-time gym rats to even, well, they look great, but to maintain it. These guys that are traveling around and talking to people in the streets, they look like they're vegans. Look at this guy's.
Well, I was around
a very common comment I get from people.
Sorry, say that again.
I was around a lot of the ethical vegans. Like, in fact, I'm probably going to get a bit of flack in real life for this. I'm sure of it. Right. But and not for the comments I'm just about to make. I'm talking about just overall. It's the vegans that I hung out with. There were a couple of them that were into, I would say, health and kind of fitness, more fitness side of things. But yeah, definitely a lot of people in the group fit the stereotype of the vegan, I would say. But it also veganism also attracts, especially in the earlier days, it attracted a lot of the same people. If you were talking about that 16 personalities test, if you look at the vegan groups, they do the 16 personality test polls, and they usually come out INFP and ENFP. So you're getting all the same kind of people.
Yes.
That are becoming vegan. That there's a reason that those are the people who became vegans, because they're of a particular personality type that would do that. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of similarities in that regard as well. So yeah, in sometimes it may be a bit hard to kind of isolate whether it's diet or just the personality that the diet attracts. But yeah,
you are right about the ENFP, by the way.
Sorry.
You are right about the ENFP, by the way. We noticed that in Hawaii because we made everybody take that, and there was so many people. Someone said to look up James Aspie. He looks good, so we'll take a look at him. Just to be fair, that's what we do on this channel, guys. We want to be legit. Oh, I was looking at this picture. And I said, "Damn, he actually looks pretty buff." And look what he's eating. This is back in the meat days. Yeah. He looked good back then, didn't he?
Yeah.
Look at this shit. And it's so funny. Like, I saw this picture, I was like, wow, James Aspie, impressive. And he's eating a damn lobster.
He's also younger there, though, so...
Right. Let's look at a recent video, though.
Yeah.
All of your work has basically come down to the conclusion that there's no amount...
Can't really see much there. I guess this picture, how old is this?
It's always hard to look at just
Yeah, he looks good. He looks healthy. He looks buff. He's got a good shape.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to look at that and they're going to be like, oh, he's really unhealthy. I think most people would just say, yeah, he looks pretty good to me.
Somebody said he looks way worse now, pale and gaunt. See, that's the thing too, is a lot of people are using very old photos of themselves all the time. This happens.
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, he travels a lot, so he may not have the best diet anymore, so that could explain why he's probably not as lean. But then again, I haven't really seen any vegans that are kind of on his level. Maybe in that crab eating picture there, but maybe Simnet, he's kind of like that lean, but not many vegans are that lean and buff.
He's starting to look a little like soft around the edges here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely noticed getting softer. That's for sure. Like a softer look.
He's got the soy titties.
We have people think that non-violence is one of the greatest things that our civilization holds valuable.
The vegan activist. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is a good shot right here. That's a good shot right there. That's the updated version. James Aspie.
His arms look smaller. Yeah.
Yep. That's where it is right there. 14 weeks ago.
I mean, it's hard to tell with all that stuff. I mean, I went over some of this stuff with my brother. He's never been vegan or anything like that, and I said, what do you think of this? Because I was having a look at the vegan deterioration channel and whatnot, and I was also talking to another one of my friends as well, and got them to have a look, and they were like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. So, it's...
Yeah, but I mean, the symptoms are not that important. Like, so there's a game that the vegans like to play. It's another misdirection that they use, which is called Name the Nutrient. Have you heard of this?
Name the nutrient. But I haven't heard of it, but I can imagine that's very easy to debunk.
Well, what they like to do is they like to go, they don't know anything about nutrition, but then they go up to another layperson and they say, name the nutrient that we're not getting on the vegan diet. And of course, a regular person is going to have a hard time answering that question. The vegan feels all righteous and vindicated. But the point is that we don't need to know the nutrient. It doesn't matter. Like I said, or I thought I was walking today and I thought of this.
It's the result.
We know what causes Down syndrome. We know what it means to have Down syndrome, right? Like mental retardation. We know what this is, but knowing what it is can't fucking stop it from happening. It doesn't matter that we have this information, that we have the science around it. We got the brain autopsies. it's doesn't matter. It's the final result and the prevention of that result that matters. We know that eating 100% vegan for 5+ years is probably going to do this to you. It's definitely going to do it to you after 10 years. So where's your time clock? You just don't know when it's going to happen to you. And there's all these people again, if there was no ethical portion to veganism, it would have fallen a long time ago. This notion would just be
another diet.
It would just be like, all right, this just definitely doesn't work. We're over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think I would have continued if it was just a diet. No way. Like,
Right.
Because there was just too many. There's the social things and the I would say even health issues just during that I wouldn't have. Like, for instance, the getting enough protein in. You know, if you try to get enough protein in a vegan diet, it's always like a lot of fiber or
With carbs, with a lot of carbs.
Or protein powder. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of hard to avoid. So, I would have changed that. If it was just a diet, I would have just changed it by myself. So, yeah.
Well, somebody in the channel said 5 years vegan and proud. Here's the key is 20 to 25% of healthy fats. That's why many vegans fail long term. Well, the thing is that vegans can't even agree what the healthy fat is within the vegan diet. You got people arguing against oil.
Most people wouldn't know what they're getting anyway. Like, if you look at the different types of fats, of which there are hundreds, or there's possibly even thousands, but let's just talk about the main ones, like the monounsaturated, the saturated, and then poly. Like, most people won't even know what proportions they're getting of those things. And, it seems that you mainly want to, if in terms of energy, you really want to be getting it from saturated and monounsaturated fats, not from poly. So, people would have to really monitor what oils and what fats they were.
And you're getting the omega-6 situation as well on top of that. Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, the omega-6 just goes crazy when you're vegan. Like, I didn't even try and reduce that because it would just be practically impossible to actually do in practice. I did to a certain extent. Like, I would have, I would kind of check chronometer just to see that, and this is what I'm talking about with the kind of limited food selection as well, is where you try and get all these things kind of in balance, to do it right, to quote unquote do it right. And it just whittled down all your food options. And that's the thing. Like, most people wouldn't even be considering any of these things. Like, your average vegan, they won't even know how many omega-3s they're getting. They won't know that DHA and EPA is not the same as ALA, is not the same as the precursor. They're not going to know.
You have to be a fucking chemist. You have to be a chemist.
They'll tell me that, oh, you didn't do it right, and you didn't eat this particular vitamin or whatever. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, that's why I say they resort to these little stupid questions, these little quips, these little gotchas. That's what they do. Name the nutrient. And you're like, oh, well, I don't know. And then they go, okay, yeah, I thought so. There's nothing that we can't get on the vegan diet. It's like, well, actually, there are nutrients that we definitely can't get. And then there's also questionably absorbable nutrients, which you guys don't even talk about. Because something you brought up earlier regarding the absorbability of, I think we were talking about the protein, is I've heard estimates as low as 30% absorbability of certain plant proteins. So vegans are willing to accept 85% is generally the accepted protein what is it? Assimility? What the hell? What's going on in my brain? The absorption rate, assimilation value of protein compared to animal foods. They say it's about 85% absorbable.
Not even close to that.
So there's people saying it's as low as 30%. So imagine that. You think you're getting 150 grams of protein, you're only getting 30% of that?
Well,
you're talking...
yeah, that's the thing. And like I said, that's another thing that people don't know about. So if you there's a PDCAS. It's basically the protein digestibility amino acid score, and they've also got the biological value of a protein as well. And if you look
biological
through
value is what I've seen.
Pardon?
That's very low. The biological value is what I've seen. That's very low.
Yeah. So if you look through all the different plant proteins, you'll see that they range anywhere from 0.3 to all the way up to 0.95 or something, or 1.0,
for
depending
soy.
on what scale we're talking about. But people. The point is, people don't know what they're eating most of the time. Like I've seen lots of vegan posts that say, a good source of protein is almonds and peanut butter and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure they have biological values of less than 0.5 or around 0.5. So,
but is that the person's responsibility, or do you think that that's a worthwhile? Like, I'm with you. I totally agree that people don't really know what they're putting into their bodies to begin with. They have like a relative idea of what's healthy and what's not healthy, but it's super questionable. But do you think it is our responsibility to understand that? Because obviously there's ways to eat meat incorrectly and mix it with carbs and fats and carbs at the same time. There's suboptimal ways to do that. However, if you are consuming animal foods, pretty much everybody's in agreement that you're not going to be going vitamin and mineral deficient. Like, there's no sign of that. There's no sign of deficiency on a meat supplemented diet.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's responsibility on anyone's behalf to actually look after their health and and after the nutrients that they're getting. Like, for instance, you could design a deficient diet on meat. You could have very lean meats and not get the fat soluble vitamins.
You have to go out of your way, though.
Sorry?
Like, you'd have to go out of your way pretty much to consume an deficient meat diet. Like, you'd have to design it that way. Whereas like with veganism, you're designing it to try and not get deficient, and it's still very difficult to achieve that.
Yeah, exactly. No. It's much easier to get a full spectrum of nutrients just eating animal foods compared to plant foods. And the reason I think is because, well, not only because it actually fits our physiology better, and it's more absorbable, but also because traditionally, like, we've been brought up in a certain way, so we know how to generally eat. And I'm not saying we're particularly good at it these days because we've lost a lot of those traditions, but we generally know, or we generally have an idea of what we should eat from our parents, and from their parents got from their grandparents, and we all ate meat, so we kind of know what the deal is. We know what a meal looks like. A meal for most people looks like a portion of meat, a portion of carbs or whatever, and a portion of plants, right? For the most part. And it used to be even less so plants and more so animal foods, but we still had a kind of idea of what we should eat. And so when you have this kind of vegan experiment and no one knows what to do, of course you're going to have all these different people starting all these different kinds of diets, because on vegan you actually don't know what you're eating. It's chaos. It's like you just don't know. There's no traditions for veganism, so of course it's going to end up with people not knowing what to do, and especially younger people or people who are just not willing to research things. They're not going to have any support from their parents, or they're not going to have any support from friends and family in terms of not even just like people telling them what to eat in terms of this food has this nutrient and this other food has this nutrient. More so like just meal design in general. Just people just have to guess like what a vegan meal looks like, and a lot of the time it's like, oh, we're gonna have a smoothie, and that's a very new thing. That's not a traditional food item. Is a smoothie, like, just on a regular basis. So there's a lot of new things in veganism, and it's not necessarily good. Yeah.
Well, with vegan food, like, that's the other thing too, and something that Chase said earlier in the stream, the vegan guy who's coming off 10 years of veganism doing the carnivore experiment, he says like the way he normally eats every meal is that he eats till his stomach is so full that it basically tells him like, I can't eat anymore. It's not like he's satisfied. It's his stomach is like, we're done because I literally cannot fit in another bite of food. And the funny thing about that is I used to eat that way too, for dinner, especially with my cooked dinner, you know?
Yeah.
But it was like, if I had a bowl of food and I was stuffed full, but there was still food left in the bowl, I could let that bowl sit there for 5 minutes and I could eat more food again. And I would then shovel in a couple more spoonfuls and leave it there. Shovel in a couple more spoonfuls and leave it there until the thing was done, you know? But on meat, I'm like, there's a bite that's good. And then all of a sudden I hit a point where I'm just like, I'm done. And I don't want to even look at the meat anymore. I just want to put it away and get rid of it and just move on with my day. There's no like sitting around, oh, I think I need to eat more because I know I'll be starving in 2 hours if I don't get in more calories. You know, like, no, you're done. You're good. Yep. And that's the calmness thing that you said too. And I was laughing. I smiled earlier in the stream and people called me out for it because when he was done with his meal, he had that moment, like he was eating, and then he was like, I'm done. And he was like, it shocked him that he was done. And then he pushes the plate away. And then afterwards I asked him like, how do you feel? And he's like, I feel pretty relaxed. Like that was the word that came to his mind, you know, like
that's the euphoria.
Yeah. And I had that feeling too. Like I say it, like my fingertips had a tingling sensation as well as like the back of my head. After the first night that I had, definitely the first time I had a steak. And I think it was the first night after I had, it was after I had a steak, but it was like the steak, this like, oh, like you could just relax. Like, oh
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
very
I
comforting.
definitely got that as well. It's not just, and it's not like, I just don't. I feel like a lot of people are just going to look at this and going to be like, oh, just dismiss it, and it's just like, oh, that's bullshit. You're talking shit. But I genuinely think that your body knows very well what meat kind of is to the body. You know, it's like it knows that it's meat and that it's going to get certain nutrients that you may have not been getting, and it's going to really latch on to things that you were deficient in. And tell you to eat them quite forcefully. And I think that's what happened. It just put all signals on to say, you continue this because what you're doing before, wasn't great.
Yeah, every long-term vegan that I know of, I had somebody ask me like why you didn't go to vegetarian. And there's two reasons for that. Number one is because if I would have continued eating plants, my digestion would have just been fucked. And that would have been no good for me. And a lot of vegans are coming from that same digestive, horrible experience on veganism. Yeah. But the other issue too is that I feel like I need those foods to like recuperate something in my body. And like when I go through phases and I rotate too. Like some weeks I'll be like stuck on eggs, like high quality eggs. Like I'll just eat a bunch more eggs than normal, and I'll be fine with like ground beef and eggs. And then other weeks I'm like, I want steak. Other weeks I'm like more into chicken for some reason. You know, like lately I've been into chicken, and I wasn't eating chicken for weeks or months. Yes, Charles. John is now an open out of the closet meat eater. All right. So how's your style now? Like, what are you eating now?
I dabbled in a bit of, the carnivore style, but in terms of long-term eating, I might go lower on the carbs, but I'm not going to go, because, having been into health, I've kind of looked into a lot of the lower carb stuff. And funnily enough, I've circled back to the lower carb stuff because when I started veganism, that's partly why I started, because I did a ketogenic diet and actually fell down the stairs. Maybe because of like electrolytes or something, but at the time I didn't know too much about it. But yeah, I've done a full circle and had a look into the ketogenic stuff. I tried doing it a couple of times since going back to meat, but I really can't justify it at the moment in terms of long-term sustainability. I just don't see myself doing that the entire time. And also, I'm not convinced, especially for muscle building, my goals are not in line with the carnivore way. And I haven't really seen anyone build any appreciable muscle.
I'll be doing that soon, by the way. I'll be doing that soon. Not pure carnivore, but what's that?
Yeah.
I was saying I will be building muscle soon, and I know that it can definitely work. I'm doing 100% carnivore if I wanted to. However, I will supplement a little bit of carbs like every probably 2 or 3 days, which I would still consider carnivore. But I was doing that with milk and meat, basically. Like, you can gain size at will, and I'm only eating 2 meals a day too. But right now, I've been trying to specifically keep my body weight at a set level and just chop the fat off while maintaining that body weight. So like essentially like a long-term body recomposition, which I've been working on for like the last few months.
Very long term.
Very long term. Very long term.
But yeah, I don't know. I've dabbled in it a bit, but I'm doing well on maybe, I think I'm doing like 150 carbs roughly. So not particularly high, but that seems to do pretty well for me. It's like
daily 150.
Just to maintain the intensity in the gym. Like I was doing, when I first started, I was doing quite a high carb, and I was going to the gym twice a day. And I just had stacks of energy to do that. And then I tried low carb for a bit, and it kind of just couldn't get any power. And I know it's like, long-term adaptation and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I just don't want to do that like 3-month experiment and then have it not be that great for me. I've seen a lot of Stephen Finney's work in relation to ketogenic diets, even in longer term, 12 weeks. Some athletes don't do as well. Some do better, but some do worse. And I'm not willing to invest the 3 months it's probably needed to actually adapt to a significant degree. So it's just...
Bart K was on my stream last week or this week, and he said that it takes around 3 weeks to get to the point, if you're doing truly zero carb or like very like carnivore, straight at zero carb, it takes about 3 weeks for your body to start providing enough glycogen to the muscles based on your activity levels to fully supply your workouts to the point where like you won't really notice that you're not eating carbs anymore. Was what he said. Now the Finney experiments, I'm not familiar with those. I don't know like if it was truly carnivore or what, but
it was ketogenic.
See, ketogenic is different. Like I feel like carnivore, it has way more potential for athleticism than ketogenic does, and I feel like ketogenic, like the traditional ketogenic way, has been essentially debunked as like a performance diet. Whereas like carnivore, I feel like there's still a lot of room for interpretation in terms of like who it would work for and why it works and stuff like that, because you're not in ketosis and that's not really the goal of it. But we could probably go way off topic with that. Somebody said, I was reading something earlier. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Continue on.
I was just going to say with the little carnivore experiment I did, I noticed, so I did it for about a week and a half, and then I was like, it's just not any good. Like I just couldn't be bothered with it. And then I stopped for a bit. Then I went back into it, and I would say even throughout the first week and a half, I was getting heart palpitations, and feeling extremely lethargic. Like this is a week in, and I redid it, and I kind of lowered the protein a little bit. I got some magnesium, I got some sodium, I got some potassium, and that made zero difference either as well. So I don't know. All of those things, I couldn't really troubleshoot it. So I'm just kind of leaving that until maybe there's a bit better
clarity.
Guidelines around that kind of stuff.
So
maybe.
but I mean, I know how high protein and carbs does in the gym, and it's, I mean, if you want to talk about like maximal performance, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So like, how is it now? How, you know, are you back? Like, does your body just feel like back to, you know, full
Well,
power?
I mean, the first, so I did high carbs for like a couple of 3 weeks, and then I kind of started experimenting with all this stuff. So, funnily enough, with the experimentation, I've just been going backwards. But in terms of the first 3 weeks, just insane muscle growth. Like it was just back to kind of my old self, because I was very much like an athlete back in school. I was like athletics champion and whatnot, and it was just like I was like, yeah, this is what it feels like to kind of be back to my old self in terms of performance.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was crazy. I was going twice a day, every day. So yeah, it was very, very good. Very good.
What do you think about these bodybuilders that are getting good results for now, like the John Venuses and Derek Simnets, and like, how do you think this will all end for them? Because we know it will, you know, I mean, like, how are they able to maintain what they're doing, assuming that they are natural, assuming that, you know, these other things are part of the equation or not part of the equation?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know too much about what they're doing behind the scenes, or, because you only see a small portion of what they do in real life. They're only kind of, they put up a few how to make this food and, meal examples, and they might do a full day of eating or whatever, but you're not really seeing much. And also it's not much is being tested either. Like, what if they were eating meat, would they be a lot better?
Right. In relation to themselves, and that's another thing that needs to be pointed out to people, is like,
of course,
just because somebody has a fantastic genetics and they're bigger as a vegan than somebody with average genetics is as a meat eater doesn't mean that the meat is worse than the vegan. It just means that their genetics are literally superior, and we see that all the time. I mean, and there's people that make the NFL and there's people that don't.
We see that people increase their strength and mass after they incorporate meat again. So, in terms of the self-development, it definitely seems like it does increase. And from personal, I mean, I know it's an anecdote, but for me personally, it's just been night and day. I actually, when I first went into the gym, like the day after, because I had to test it, I had to see if there's any difference, because I could feel different.
Yeah.
And of course, the first day or so is probably maybe a bit of placebo, but just throughout the first week of going to the gym, I was laughing in the gym. I was like, this is for real. What I've been missing out. This is like, you just feel like, and then sometimes I was angry as well. I was like duped, and it's like 6 years of trying to build muscle, and it's just such a slow pace, and I could have made so many gains. Like I could just
okay. So here's what I want to relate this to the vegans that might be watching this. So like, they might look at you and say, well, you already made, what's that?
Yeah, go ahead. I know what they're going to say.
Well, they may have looked at you while you had your vegan channel, and they may have said, well, what do you mean? Like, what do you need more than that for? Like, what does building muscle mean to you in the end? Like, does it signify health to you? Does it signify just personal growth and development? Something you enjoy as a hobby? You want to look good? Like, why is this so important to people like us that want to be able to build muscle?
Yeah,
what does it mean to you?
It matters for all those reasons. I mean, everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to, well, I don't know about this, but, people want to be healthy to the extent that they want to engage in healthy activities or eat healthy food.
I find that the most ironic thing, though, is there's a lot of ethically based vegans who actually ironically eat the shittiest form of the vegan diet and openly say that they're unhealthy, but at least they're doing it for the animals, which is also heavily debated. So they're doing the worst of the worst. Like you have Klaus from Plant Based News, for instance. He came on my channel the other day, and he was saying, he was admitting that he doesn't feel good on the vegan diet. He eats a shitty version of the vegan diet. All of his friends eat a shitty version of the vegan diet.
Yeah, I was interested in that. Why does Klaus eat so bad? He was. I thought he was well into nutrition, and he, had obviously plant-based news and all that. He interviews all the doctors. I would have thought he would be eating relatively healthy, but when he said that he was eating junk and he's eating like shit, he was very like animated. He's a very animated kind of guy, actually.
Yeah, very shocking actually to me. I was a little like, whoa, like. Take it down a notch just for yourself.
He wouldn't let you say anything about him without like having a little jab at your back. Definitely.
He was a bit defensive, yes, and I understand. I'm all about being defensive and proving your point, but it's like the way he was going about it was a little like, I don't know, disturbing or off-putting in a way, like what I mean?
It was kind of there was something about it that it was very uncomfortable the way he was defending himself. And then when he was, so you were talking to Bart Kay, weren't you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Bart Kay said something, and then Klaus was like, and that proves it or something. He said something to that effect. And
he goes, boom!
Boom! And it was just like, what? Like, why are you so, like, I don't know, animated over that, Klaus? Like, settle down. And, he wasn't even correct. Like, Klaus wasn't even right in that regard either. I know about that GI study as well. But, whatever.
Well, I'm glad you caught that, and I'm glad we could just make a comment on that. It's the first time. I mean, I've defended Klaus in the comment section. People were ragging on him, saying, he was undercarbed and all this stuff, and I was like, well, it was late there, but he wanted to come on the channel. Like he was in the comments like, get me on there, and I said, oh, okay, like sure. It wasn't me begging him to come on or making him come on against his will. So I've had so much good vegan clips on this channel now, between Jackson Foster and Plantriotic going, you ain't gonna find it, brother, and Klaus's boom. And I mean, we got clips for days right now. I want to make a little intro with all this shit, man. It's gonna be funny.
Yeah, that'd be funny. It's pretty late here as well,
I thought it's early there right now.
Early but late. What time do you reckon it is?
6 a.m. ish.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
but you've been up all night?
Huh?
But you've been up all night, or you're up early?
I was up all night. I do Uber driving, so I was up late.
You had the late shift.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you caught this. Were you in this since the beginning of the chat, pretty much, or beginning of the?
No, I came in like, I don't know, like an hour in, I think. Pretty late into the stream, actually. I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew you guys were doing an experiment. So yeah, and I heard you talking about it obviously on the other stream, talking about with Bart Kay about the experiment and Klaus as well. At some point I got to get back on YouTube. I got to make some videos. Got to tell everyone. Got to give them a little story about how vegan health fitness is no longer vegan. Yeah,
you've come out today, and I appreciate you sharing it with the stream today. We've had a monumental stream. A 10-year vegan eats meat on camera for the first time ever in YouTube history. And on a live stream, as far as I know. And then you come out and follow it up with another heater segment. Exactly. Well, is there anything that you'd like to share with my audience? I mean, guys, you heard it. Go over to Vegan Health Fitness channel. He's going to perhaps make some videos soon. Maybe we do some live streams or whatever. They're quite fun.
I mean,
you have a big audience.
A kind of all-encompassing, the whole story kind of thing that you hear, the ex-vegan story. all that kind of stuff. I might even do one with courage. We'll see.
Bring them on. Why not? I'm all for talking to anybody. Like, people are like, bring on Freely. I'm like, okay, if she's down to come on the show, let's go. I mean, I'm not gonna, there's nobody I wouldn't talk to at this point. Why wouldn't I? There's nothing anybody could say to me that would, like, as I've been saying, you can't debunk my experience. You can debate anything that I say, but you can't debunk my experience, which means that I'm impenetrable to this factoids that the vegans bring out. Like, you know how you felt when you ate that can of tuna. You know how you felt that following week in the gym and how you feel now. Like, that's your experience. It's a very strong point in the terms of the like, are you going to trust your experience, or are you going to trust some vegan's experience that you've never met on the internet because they tell you something that they heard?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's just, it's just weird because I've been vegan for 6 years. Like, I had a YouTube channel regarding veganism. I have videos on my channel where I go and do chatting to people, that whole ethical thing. So I was very vested in it, and I just have this feeling that people are going to be like, I don't think it's too many, but there's going to be people that are just like, oh yeah, you didn't do it right, and it's like, you have no idea how many hundreds of hours I spent, or thousands of hours I spent, either putting together YouTube videos on veganism or just researching nutrition. Like, I've spent thousands of hours. I talk about it like daily, and they're going to tell me that you needed to get more omega-3s or some.
You should have watched Cowspiracy. Go watch Dominion. I had some troll in here earlier. Go make him watch Dominion. It's like, dude, you're literally where we were 5 years ago. Like, I mean, just turn the clock back. You have no idea. You're just so clueless. I'm sorry. You vegans are so clueless. You're so arrogant that's the word I just keep coming back to, because they think that they're going to do it better than you. They think that they've got this little system figured out. Like, they don't know anything, and I'm not saying that we know everything, but we definitely know that doesn't work.
Yeah. And I've heard you talk about, the way you would kind of systematically, maybe not even systematically, but you'd methodically go through like all the things that you're doing in the diet and try to adjust them, to make it work for you. And I know I did the same thing. I tracked, I did MyFitnessPal for a year and a half. That's just MyFitnessPal. And I've done Chronometer on and off the entire time. Like, I would reevaluate what I'm doing. Am I getting the right nutrients? How much protein roughly am I getting a day? I know a lot of people who are going to comment, they probably don't even track any of that. They've never looked at that they've looked at it once in their lifetime.
It's a humbling experience, isn't it? To be so fucking wrong, and to think you're so right, and to be telling other people that they're doing it wrong. And it's just like this cycle. But in this vicious cycle of vegans going vegan, falling off, they're spreading this nonsense to other people, because they do have this honeymoon period in the first couple of years where they do feel pretty good, because they've basically taken out all the shit from their standard American diet or standard Western diet. So like, they feel better for a little bit. And then the veganism sets in, which is a deficient diet, a malnutrition diet. And then you have this other set of symptoms that pops up that you didn't have before, and it's even worse than before. So that's what they need to understand.
I noticed that like a year in. So I especially in the gym, I noticed, 6 months, I had really good gains in the gym, actually. Very, very good gains. And I think that was just, the extra carbs in the diet, especially. And it made you feel fuller. Like, your muscles were very, very pumped because you were eating so many carbs, and it just, maybe it was some of the vasodilators in some of the fruits I was eating. I don't know, but it was just a number of things, and just the gains were pretty good. Maybe my digestion was better at that point as well. So maybe I was getting more nutrition. But just slowly over that year, it just got harder to make gains. And I thought that it was something, I thought it was just because I'd gained so much that I couldn't really gain much more. But and there was an element of that. Like, I did gain quite a lot of strength in just 6 months, but it was still, you should be able to make, continue on from there and just make relatively significant gains.
Well, I want to point out that there's a feeling that you get when you're somebody who works out in the gym and you're eating the right diet. There's a feeling that you have where you feel strong, okay? And we need to separate this feeling strong from making gains. When you're, like, for instance, when you're cutting on meat, you still feel strong. You don't feel weak, but you're not really making gains. Whereas as a vegan, you don't even feel strong, even though you might be making some gains. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's a separation of the two. But obviously, when you're eating the right diet and you're eating enough calories, you're gonna feel strong and you're gonna make gains, hella gains. Where it's different. Like, I never felt strong as a vegan. I made some gains, some modest, mediocre gains, but I never like had that extra shove. If it came down to me and another man, like, tug of war, like, I would feel like I would lose that fight every time. You know what I mean? Like, even given the same strength.
I was going to say, did you notice, like, I noticed in the first week of going back to the gym, the aggression was there, like the real, like,
the intensity.
You're pushing a weight and you just got this extra gear, and you've also got, so you get more reps, but you also have just a lot stronger muscles. I don't know what it is.
You can dig deeper. You can dig deeper into the muscle, like that. Those money reps at the end. That's what I call them. Those failure reps. You can grind those out 1 or 2 extra. That's where you get the gains. And
the aggression was so much more as well. Like, I just noticed that I like during the first week, and I'm not sure it was because I hadn't had those nutrients in a while, and all of a sudden my body had a flood of them. So it would have, maybe the homeostasis of those nutrients wasn't so great at that point. But it was just, like the amount of kind of, I don't know if whether it was testosterone or something, but it just felt like I could get a lot more reps and just a lot more aggression as well. Yeah. Anyway, that's just something.
Ron Paul said factoid, or no, sorry, I'm going to ignore that one. That one's stupid. He said 1,000. He was commenting on your hours of making vegan content. He said thousands of hours making fake vegan videos. Geez, that's new. And it's so stupid because these vegans that are on the internet out here serving no purpose, not doing any type of activism, they're not even eating a healthy diet. They're not representing in any way to positively benefit veganism. They're over here criticizing online, whereas you had a 35,000 user vegan channel, subscriber vegan channel, where you probably made potentially up to a couple thousand people go vegan, or at least consider it.
Yeah, I know people. I mean, the annoying thing is I know people who definitely went vegan because I had a YouTube channel and I was kind of a relatively good advocate. Like, I know I'm relatively good at selling ideas. And so, it's not particularly hard for me when I'm talking to people to convince them to do something. So I have no doubt that
a good salesman,
that they would have done that. And they did. So.
And I want to point out too, like Ron Paul, you may or may not know this, but I created a vegan dating app, and I spent tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of time developing that. Like, I had a personal vested interest, just like you, to be vegan, keep building my vegan network, remain vegan, make money off veganism. Obviously, by doing what I'm doing now and still being tied to that, like, it hurts my business. It goes against what the vegans say. They a lot of them say that these vegans are jumping onto the carnivore thing for money. It's like, no, it's the opposite. We're literally throwing away everything we built to live in real health, because this is what we actually feel like. This is the one time that we're telling the truth for sure, Yeah.
And I mean, I never sold anything.
Yeah.
I never sold anything. Like, it was
no consultations, nothing?
Huh?
You never did consultations or anything like that? Vegan consultations, fitness?
I did a couple of times, but yeah, but for all intents and purposes, no. Like,
right.
If you count 2 times, then yes, I did. But you know, for all intents and purposes, no, I didn't. And one thing I would change if I do start again, and funnily enough, you know, on that point, I probably would treat it more, you know, business-like, try and actually make it sustainable, because, you know, making videos are not selling anything, or, you know, and it doesn't have to be like selling supplements. I'm not particularly for that, but you know, if there's some sort of added value that I can provide, then I'm definitely going to look into that next time, because yeah, it's just like, you know yourself, like, unless you get millions and millions of views, it's just not sustainable. The amount of money you make from YouTube, it's literally just you know, doing it as a hobby and doing it as a service, a free service. It's like volunteering,
right?
For the most
Except
part.
you take a bunch of shit for it, and people call you a liar, and people say that you're.
And I mean,
you know,
those 3 months that I did last year, every Saturday, they were volunteer, and it wasn't even my organization. I was doing it for someone else. So yeah, I was putting in my time and effort to do all that. So there's no money involved. It's not like they pay you to stand out there and talk to people about veganism. It's like you just do it because you're vested in the movement. You're interested in you know,
out of the goodness of your heart.
Pretty much, yeah.
Igor says, still waiting for a true carnivore without stimulants. It's so funny that this has now become the sticking point, the supposed Achilles heel, because carnivores are the only ones that drink coffee. Because you know, it's like, as a vegan, I drank tons of energy drinks and tons of coffee, and people didn't say shit to me about it back then. They didn't say it was you know, my vegan friends didn't say the vegan diet is telling me that the diet's causing me to go to the energy drinks. They thought it was just something I did.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
I had heaps of coffee as well. Yeah, Angie was quite low, I would say. Yeah. It was all right, but a bit low, a bit on the low
look,
side.
Bottom line is, you start adding in fats back into the diet with a high carbohydrate intake, you are going to get sleepy as fuck after your meals. Period.
Yeah,
your energy is going to be so low.
The sleeping, yeah, I never got over that. That when you do mention that, that's one thing I did, and I don't miss anymore, is those sleepy feelings after eating a large meal. And I would eat large meals. I haven't got a bowl here to show you, but I would eat very, very large meals. And you know, I would have a cup or 2 of quinoa at each meal, like raw.
Dried. Yeah. I used to do a cup of quinoa dry routinely with a whole can of beans and then some other stuff on the side.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I'd have like 200 grams of peas, and sometimes, or a lot of the time, I'd have the what are they, like veggie burgers and veggie sausages and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have all of that together. And by the way, Whole Foods diet, I could. There's no way I could maintain that. I'm 6'5".
No chance.
And I'm 90. The lightest I've ever been in my entire life is 83 kilos. Wow. And I would actually fade away if I did Whole Foods. I noticed it almost a month or 2 in, that I was like, I noticed my weight going down way too much. It was just insane. I didn't want to lose that much weight. I was already lean enough.
Maybe you're meant to be. Maybe your optimal human form is meant to be skinny and thin, like John. Why do you want to be bigger? Nature would let you know. Just eat the bananas you find in nature right outside your door.
Yeah,
What? It's like, have you guys ever been in nature? Okay, there's so many survival shows on Discovery Channel and all these places. When have these people ever eaten enough food in the wild? And keep in mind that they're on tropical islands and all these type of places. When have they ever eaten well off of fruits and vegetables that they forage themselves? They're always hunting and hopefully killing a snake or hopefully killing a squirrel or a fish to actually eat good. It's not possible. You guys are living in vegan fruitopia is what I like to call it.
Fruitopia. Yeah.
I think that I'm ready to get the stream wrapped up here on a total basis, but I do thank you for coming by, and if you want me to come on your channel, anytime.
Yeah, no problem, Drew.
Appreciate the surprise guest.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Hey, you too. See ya.